Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are deconstructing the story of a global restaurant giant that flew way too close to the sun, crashed, and then basically wrote the playbook on how to rise from the ashes.
This is the single biggest challenge for any successful restaurant founder. It's the question that keeps you up at night. Because at some point, growth itself can become the biggest threat to your entire business. And let's be clear,海底捞broke hard. But in doing so, they created a masterclass on how to fix it. So we're going straight to the lessons from their near-death experience, and we're framing this as a strategic playbook for you, the leader in that number one seat. Okay, let's dive into this.
So first up, we've got to understand the machine that drove海底捞incredible rise and its catastrophic fall. It was an engine built for incredible speed.
Okay, so the genius of their system was this. They linked a manager's personal wealth directly to expansion. Think about that. It was an incredibly powerful growth engine. It gave managers on the ground a huge motivation to go out, find new spots, and train up new leaders.
And with a ton of capital from its 2018 IPO, this engine just went into overdrive. I mean, look at those numbers. The growth was unlike anything the industry had ever seen. But, this system had a fatal flaw.
And that flaw was this. The master apprentice system was all accelerator and absolutely no brake pedal. It incentivized growth above everything else. Things like risk assessment, talent readiness, and even service quality. They all became secondary. So when the environment changed, that engine became a runaway train.
And the result of this unchecked expansion? A staggering loss of over 4 billion RMB in a single year. But what's really interesting here is that it wasn't just about the money.
The very metric that defined海底捞operational excellence, its table turnover rate, well, it plummeted. This number is the heartbeat of a hot pot restaurant. To see it drop like this, it signaled a deep, deep crisis in their core business model.
So, facing an existential threat,海底捞leadership didn't panic. What they did was execute a really precise two-part turnaround plan. Let's move on and see how this builds out. First, they had to stop the bleeding. They did that with the woodpecker plan, literally pecking away at the problem stores. Then they went deeper. They fixed the fundamental economics of every single remaining store with what they called the hardbone plan. So the crucial point is this. They obsessed over one single metric, the break-even point. They knew they couldn't control customer traffic, right? But what they could control was their costs.
And through just sheer operational excellence, we're talking smarter staffing, better supply chain management, they dramatically lowered the number of daily table turns needed to be profitable. This built a new, much more resilient financial foundation.
Okay, but the financial fix was just temporary. The permanent solution, that required a fundamental change in philosophy. They had to rewire the entire organization's DNA. And this, right here, brilliantly illustrates that core change. They moved from a system of pure incentive to one of incentive plus control. So they kept the motivation, but they added a powerful braking system by reestablishing regional management to oversee everything.
So, having survived the crisis,海底捞approach to growth now is defined by one single word: caution.
Their new playbook is all about avoiding the mistakes of the past. Franchising? Yeah, it's a tool for capital-light expansion, but HQ keeps its hands firmly on the wheel. And new brands are being created, not just for market share, but to retain their absolute best people.
So what does all this mean for you? We've distilled海底捞entire journey into 6 core principles for the person sitting in that number one seat.
All right, lesson 1, don't let your growth engine run without a braking system. It's that simple. Pure incentive without any risk management is a recipe for disaster. Be willing to fundamentally change your org chart to survive. I mean, blow it up if you have to. But you have to protect the cultural core that keeps your team together. That's non-negotiable.
You need to obsess over your unit economics. A lower, more flexible break-even point is the strongest shield you can possibly have against market volatility. It just is. Look, when your main brand matures,
New ventures become a human capital strategy, not just a revenue strategy. It's how you keep your A players from walking out the door. Your job as the CEO is to balance brand consistency with the creative energy of your frontline teams. You have to centralize the standards but decentralize the innovation. It's a tough balancing act, but it's crucial. And finally, maybe the most powerful lesson of all, Haidi Lao's greatest strength was its ability to admit a massive failure and then rigorously, systematically correct it. That right there is the ultimate capability. So as you think about your own business, your own growth engine, and your own braking system, what is the one lesson from this that you can apply, like, today? Which page from this playbook do you need to open first?